On July 13th, 1943, Lewis and Phil washed up on Kwajalein Island in Japan. Well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, let's start from the beginning. The story starts with Louis Zamperni, a troublemaker in his own town of Torrance, California. He robbed his neighbors and even put grease on steel car rails. From then on, I guess you could say, he learned to be pretty good at running from the police. Later in life, did he know he was running in the 1936 Berlin Olympics? He ran inside of a 4-minute mile. During the outbreak of the Second World War, the athlete turned his running shorts in for an airman jacket, joining the Army Air Corps. While training for being a B-24 bomber, he met his air partner and future friend, Russell Phillips, known as Phil, in 1942. Later, in May 27, 1943, they received an emergency call. A plane had gone missing in the Pacific Ocean. While looking over in the plane named the Green Hornet, one of the 4 engines had failed and the plane had begun to fall into the sea. Shockingly, Louis and Phil both survived and found a raft and boarded it. The only other survivor there was Sergeant McMara, which they called Mac. It wasn't looking good for the men. Being in a 6-foot by 2-foot raft and having Phil having a crash across his head wasn't the best thing. Louis, being the survivalist that he is, found chocolate bars, half pints of water, and 2 air pumps. With that, they could ration that to try and survive longer. In case all that wasn't enough, out came the sharks, following around the rafts at night. In the morning, Louis decided day 2 would be a breakfast day, but when they woke up, the chocolate was gone. The look of guilt took over Mac's face. This may have cost him. Same day, while they were all laying back, they all began to hear a noise. It was indeed a plane, so they took out the flare gun and fired 3 shots, but no one stopped or noticed. The days were hot and blistering, and the nights were cold and barren. Fighting the weather was a challenge in itself.
As more days passed, hunger became a big issue, until an albatross stopped on Louis' head. Then he grabbed the bird and killed it. The bird was used for food and bait. Around this time, it had been 2 weeks since they had been on the water. By the time cannibalism was discussed, they agreed to never eat each other. At that exact time, another albatross had landed on his head. On the 27th day, another plane came by. More shots fired, but this time, the plane turned around. The plane began firing bullets at them. They dove into the water and survived. 5 times the gunners came by trying to shoot at them. After the shooting, the raft began to go down. The men took shifts repairing it. Around 30 days had passed, and the sharks were still there. They began to get angry. They jumped into the raft. The men fought them off for 4 minutes before they stopped going in the raft. On the 34th day, Mac predicted that he would die. That morning, they woke up and Mac was dead. As they agreed, they did not eat him. On the same night that Mac had passed, more rain came, which meant more water for them. They also used the rest of the bird they have for bait to catch fish. On July 13th, the 46th full day, there was a massive storm. As the water whipped them around, they came on top of a wave, and then they saw it, land.